What it do, what it do, what it do, and what it don't do. What it do, what it do, and what it don't do. Ooh. Trump, Trump, Trump all day. Trump train. We'll go ahead and take this poll down. I see y'all in there. Smash the like button, man. Y'all got to start hitting that like button when y'all come in. Y'all ain't hitting the like button, commenting. I appreciate it, but that don't help a whole lot. That don't help a whole lot. I need y'all to start hitting that like button. Let's get this video up. Let's get this video up. Oh, you can't hear me? I had the phone turned down. Hit that like button, man. Y'all hit that like button. Hit that like button. Got so many YouTubers out there trying to do everything they see me doing, man. That don't make no damn sense, man. Everybody want to start talking about Donald Trump now. Ain't nobody been talking about no Donald Trump but me. Now all of a sudden everybody want to start talking about Donald Trump. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Got a bunch of copycatters and haters out there. Don't worry about it, though. We're finna go live. We're finna go live. Donald Trump, Flint, Michigan. We live in Michigan right now. Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan. Yes, sir. 1 second. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Turn on all post notification bells. Don't keep me waiting, man. Let's go.
Well, thank you very much. Black son. Like a Michigan football game over here. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. I want to thank you, JD, for the introduction. You're going to be a fantastic Vice President of the United States. And you know, I chose him because he's for the worker. He's for the people that work so hard and perhaps weren't treated like they should have been, but they were treated that way 4 years ago, I can tell you that. But we're going to get it back bigger, better, stronger than ever before. Thank you very much. This is so great. I'm thrilled to be back in the great state of Michigan with thousands and thousands, and I mean lots of thousands up here. This is a hell of an arena. This is a hell of an arena. But you are the hardworking patriots that we love. You know, they have crowds of people outside. You're not even going to believe it. They go blocks and blocks. But let's forget about them, right? Let's forget about them. Let me begin this evening with a very special thanks to Americans nationwide, including all of you here today, for your extraordinary outpouring of love and support in the wake of the horrific last Saturday event. And when you think of it, it was exactly 1 week ago today, almost to the hour, even to the minute. Incredible. What a day it was. As I said earlier this week, I stand before you only by the grace of Almighty God. That's true. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. Maybe JD or somebody else would be here, but I shouldn't be here right now. But something very something very special happened, let's face it, something happened. I want to thank Butler Memorial Hospital in Pennsylvania for the incredible job they did and service they gave. And all of the great citizens of Butler, Pennsylvania and the surrounding area and everyone else for the job they did and the love that they showed us all. It was incredible, actually. What a time that was. What a time that was. Nobody's seen anything like it. And hopefully they never will again. And they had cameras blazing. I guess it was different in that way too, because we were right in the middle. All those, see, look at all the news back there, and they were all blazing. They were going. No, they covered it fairly. They couldn't believe what they were saying either. So you did cover it fairly. Let me also thank Congressman Ronnie Jackson from Texas. You know Congressman Ronnie Jackson, for the care and treatment he gave me as an outstanding doctor, which he is. He's really an amazing guy. Where's Ronnie? Doc Ronnie is here someplace. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much. Great doctor. He was a great admiral, a great doctor. He's a White House doctor for Bush, Obama, and a guy named Trump. And they said, who was the healthiest of the three? He said, not even a question, Trump. And I said, I love that guy. I love that guy. When he said that, that was my doctor. Even if he's a congressman, that was my doctor. But he's been a great congressman. Thank you very much, Ronnie, for everything. We appreciate it. Ronnie Jackson. We continue to pray for the recovery of the two citizens who were wounded in that evil attack, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two really incredible people. We remain in contact and send our deepest respect to the families. Corey, as you know, Corey Comparator was a brave firefighter who died, funeral yesterday, shielding his wife and daughters from bullets. He shielded them from the bullets of this horrendous person. Corey was a hero, and we will carry his memory in our hearts for all time. Great hero. That's great. And he was a big trumper, and we will never forget him, right? We're all together. We're all together. There's never been anything like what you witnessed the other day with the convention. I don't think there's ever been a convention where there was such unity and love, and even now I'll say just for a second, the fake news even said it that way. I want to be nice, but the fake news reported it correctly. There's never been such unity, and everybody did a great job, and the speeches and everything. It was just an incredible event.
Knock, knock. Hi there. I'd love to show you what a K-12 powered school is really.
And I'll tell you what, Milwaukee was a fantastic place. This was a beautiful arena, and they did a really great job. And Wisconsin is going to vote for us because we spent $250 million. And when they go into the voting booth, they're going to say, we love this guy Trump. He gave us $250 million with jobs, and they're going to vote. Wisconsin's a very important state, as we know. But they really did. Wisconsin did a great job. Milwaukee, they did a great job, and the arena was fantastic. And it was just love. It was like a big, beautiful 4-day love fest. There was no fight. You know, there was no fight, no screams, no shouting, no get that guy off the platform. And in case there was, we had the Hulkster with us, right? How good was he? How good was the Hulkster? And Kid Rock called, he said, I want to get, you know, Kid Rock is big, and he wanted to get down, and he did an unbelievable job. He was great. But all of them, everybody. We had so many great people there. It was really an amazing thing to see, and it was really something I don't think there's ever been. A lot of people report. I think it's either party, there's never been anything like it. And now we have something coming up where they're going to go for the convention, and they have a couple of problems. Number one, they have no idea who their candidate is, and neither do we. That's a problem. But we'll see. Hopefully they get it worked out. Sort of interesting, this guy goes and he gets the votes and now they want to take it away. That's democracy. They talk about democracy. Let's take it away from them. But now we go forward as one movement, and really we're doing we have a very special group of people, like the people here. You people built this country. It's one movement, and we're more united, determined than ever before. We've never been so determined. Bad things happened last time. We're not going to let them happen this time. Bad things happen. We will never stop working to deliver a magnificent future for our people, and together we will fight, right? And we will win. All right. Thank you. I like this place. You ever walk in to a place and you say, I sort of like this place. Less than 4 months from now, we are going to win Michigan. We are going to take back the White House in a monumental landslide. And with your help, we are going to make America great again. Right? At our convention on just a little while ago in Milwaukee on Thursday, it was my tremendous honor to officially accept the Republican nomination for President of the United States. And I used to say it in 2016, and I meant it 100%, but I mean it even more now because this country has gone wrong. We're a failing nation. We're really a left-at failing nation right now. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. This is going to be the most important election. We cannot let it slip by. We cannot let people cheat. We cannot let this slip by, or we're not going to have a country. Because I do have other things I could be doing. It would be a lot easier. Although I'd rather be with you than sitting on some gorgeous beach watching boring waves coming in. No, I would rather be. Actually, I would. You know that. I think that's one of the reasons we've been so successful together. You know I mean that too. But we're going to make our country more successful than ever before. Yet even as we gather this evening, we will, and take a look, still the Democratic nominee, we're going to find out shortly, maybe, I don't know. Let's do this. Let's do a poll. You know, I love doing polls, right? Like I do a poll, I do lots of polls, like, do you like Make America Great Again, or do you like America First, or do you like them both? I like them both, right? But let's do a poll on candidates, ready? So I'll go, we're gonna do a poll on a few candidates. The press will like this because they won't have to pay for the poll. You know, you do these crazy polls and they charge you $250. Look, there's Mr. Wall. This guy is the greatest guy. This guy, he must have a lot of money because he's at so many different rallies. And he was at the one, that was the tough one, wasn't he? That was something. You were right up in the front too. You saw that. That was something. We're going to do a poll, and it's going to be a very nice poll. And right? Who's your favorite candidate? Who would you like? Let's do it. Who would you most like to run against? Because, you know, you could say, who's the best candidate? We're saying, who would you like to? We'll start with Kamala Harris, and then we'll go to crooked Joe Biden, and then we could possibly discuss a few. So who would you like to most run against if you're us, if we want to win? Ready? Kamala Harris, crooked Joe Biden. All right. I don't think we have to go too much further. Well, you have a terrible governor here who did a terrible job. Whitman. I'd like to run against her, actually. I'd like to run against her. So she's one of the 20 that I mentioned. She's the one that gave her husband full right, title, and interest to everything, but nobody else could do anything but her husband. Her husband was sailing in the middle of your lake, your beautiful lake. He's out there sailing, and everybody else had to be locked up, right? Her husband. No, but things like that are mentioned during a campaign, little things like that. No, she's done a terrible job, but I hope I'd be very happy with her. At this very moment, Democrat Party bosses are frantically trying to overthrow the results of their own party's primaries to dump crooked Joe Biden from the ballot. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And as you're seeing, the Democrat Party is not the party of democracy. They're really the enemies of democracy. The parties of corrupt insiders like Whitmer, special interests, and the failed political class. That's what they are. Under our leadership, the Republican Party is now the party of the people. We're the party of hardworking Americans of every race, religion, color, and creed. We've become a very big party. We've become, right, fellas? You know what I'm talking about. I love you guys. We love you guys. No, we become a very big party. We have increased in size. Nobody's ever, honestly, in history, there's never been anything like this movement. And that may be in the history of the world, but let's keep it down to the country for right now, because that's the thing. Anything like MAGA, when Biden says, we have to stop MAGA, we will stop MAGA. I said, he doesn't know what MAGA stands for. It stands for Make America Great Again. How can you be against that? How can you be against that? And you know, the other side's going around trying to make me sound extreme, like I'm an extremist. I'm not. I'm a person with great common sense. I'm not an extremist at all. Like some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation, and they keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy. Hello, Chris. Here's our great campaign man. Chris, are you having a good time? Look at him, he's back there, cool as a cucumber. You know, so far they're giving us great credit for the best run campaign they've seen in years. Isn't that nice? Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Chris. Look how cool he is. Just sits there. Thanks, Ed. Try doing it with another candidate sometime. That gets tough, right? Anyway, thank you very much. Great job, Chris, Susie, the whole group. We have a great group of people. They love this country. They want to save the country. That's what we're doing. With your vote in this election, the Trump-Vance administration, by the way, I made the right pick. He's so great. They were all good. They were all good, but he's really stepped up. But the Trump-Vance administration will begin rapidly reversing every single Biden-Harris disaster starting on day one. And when you vote for Biden, you're probably voting indirectly for Harris anyway, whether you like it or not. It's common sense. It's all common sense, right? We will end the inflation nightmare that you would have never had. We had no inflation. See, there's another thing. Biden always goes, I inherited 9% inflation. And even the radical left reporters up there, look at all of them. Whoa, they have a lot of them. They have a lot of them. Look at those cameras, but they'll start turning off as soon as I start mentioning certain things. I'll say, the red light just went off. No, but actually the radical left reporters, of which there are quite a few, I can't believe it, I don't know why they'd have them, but the radical left reporters say the guy's right. You know, it wasn't until 2 years in that we became destroyed with inflation. Inflation is a country buster. It's a class buster. It busts everything. Low income, middle income especially, and they get they're busted. The country gets busted. Look at Germany from centuries ago. Look at every country that's had inflation, and we had, I believe, the greatest inflation in the history of our country. They don't even report it properly because they leave the worst numbers out. They don't talk about interest rates that went to 10, 11, 12%, and you can't get the money. So what does that mean, 12%, if you can't get the money? It means it's higher from 2%. We will seal the border, and we will stop this terrible invasion that's destroying our country. We will crush migrant crime. We're going to crush migrant crime. Oh, we have a new form of crime now. It's called migrant crime. The only good thing about these migrants coming in is they make our gang members and criminals look like the nicest people you've ever met. These people are much tougher. They come from all over the world, not just from South America. We're going to return law and order to our streets and restore patriotism to our schools. We gave you already the largest tax cut in the history of our country, larger than the Reagan cuts, but now we will give you an additional tax cut, a number of tax cuts that will make it. We took in more money after the tax cuts than we did prior. We took in billions and billions of dollars more after the tax cuts than we did. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. Everyone knows it. We're going to slash regulations. That's what created all of those jobs and gave them bounce-back jobs. You know, they're called bounce-back jobs. After COVID, they bounce back. Everybody knows that. When you have something like COVID, which rarely happens, but when you have something like that, they're called bounce-back jobs. And we're going to bring down energy prices very rapidly. It was energy that caused the problem and their stupidity. And we're going to bring it down very quickly. Your energy bills will be cut in half, at least cut in half. Some sections, like in New England, I'll be able to cut their energy by 60, 70%. It's absolutely crazy what has happened with energy. We buy the oil from Venezuela. They used to be our enemy. I don't know. We buy from Venezuela. It's not really oil, it's tar. And you know, there's only one refinery in the world that can do it. It's very heavy, horrible stuff. It's garbage. It's tar. You lift it. I said, that's not oil. We want light, sweet, crude. We have the best oil. We have the best everything. We go to Venezuela. You know where they refine it? In Houston, Texas. It's the only plant in the world that can refine that stuff. So we go to Venezuela. We pay them a fortune. We take that dictatorship. We make the dictatorship wealthy. These people don't know what the hell they're doing. They're incompetent. They're grossly incompetent. The biggest threat is because we have incompetent. That's the threat to democracy. It's a threat to our country. We have incompetent people leading our country, grossly incompetent people. America's enemies will fear us. The United States will again command the respect that it deserves. Viktor Orban, the very powerful leader of Hungary. Snack attack. Asked what happened with the world that's falling to pieces, there are wars all over. He said, bring back Trump, it'll all end. It all ended. We had no problem in the world. And something beautiful is going to happen because we will bring back the American dream, and it'll be bigger, better, and bolder than ever before. Right? And most importantly, for the people of this great state, you know, years ago, they gave me in Michigan the Man of the Year. That was long before I was a politician. I was a business guy, I did well, I liked the state, but I don't know, I heard Man of the Year, Michigan. I said, that's cool, that's good, I'm gonna make that trip. I didn't know why they were giving it to me, nothing, but they were giving it to me for, I guess, the fact that I employed a lot of people. I did real well. This is probably 14 years ago. And I came in and I said, why do you allow foreign countries like Mexico? You know, Mexico's, we think of them as friendly, but they haven't been too friendly lately. How about when they asked Biden to meet, just to meet? They want $2 billion to meet. They wouldn't ask that. See, they wouldn't even ask me that because I'd say, I will put 100% tariffs on everything you send into a country if you even think about asking. They want $2 billion to meet. In other words, we won't meet with you unless you pay us $2 billion. And this is every single year. They want $2 billion. No, it works the opposite of that, the exact opposite. But you know, when you see the things that are happening to our country, and all you have to do is know how to speak. When I watched the way our border was handled, we had the best border, the safest border, the border that saved my life. You know, I was pointing to an immigration border sign when I made this turn, and that thing went that way instead of that way. So I owe immigration my life. It's true. It's true. Now think about it. I'm talking thousands and thousands, much more than even this. I mean, we're restricted because you're in this giant arena. That's the one thing about outdoor that's good. You can have unlimited, thousands and thousands as far as the eye can see. Nobody's over here or over here because there's nobody there. It starts like this, as far as the eye can see. And I said, look at the great results that we had on immigration. Just look at them. If I didn't say that, and it's because we had like a crane holding this massive sign, I call it the $1 million sign, that they're expensive. But that sign was very good. I think I'm going to sleep with it tonight. I'm going to sleep with it tonight. I said, what was that? What was that? Ooh, then I looked, I said, that's not good. That's not good. So it's immigration, if you think about it, right? Immigration, I would have never been looking to the right, and I had to be. It was the only place that would have saved us. They do these reports in the New York Times and all over the place where they had, you know, the shape, you know, if he turns this way, this way, this way. If every shot was no good for me except for the one direct. They came whizzing by, and I hope we have to never go through that again, everybody, because it's so horrible. But most importantly, for the people of your state, this great state, I will rescue the U.S. auto industry from obliteration. They're going to obliterate your auto industry. And anybody that votes for the head of the United Auto Workers, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's approved all electric cars. And you know, Elon, I love Elon Musk. Do we love him? I love him. And I'm constantly talking about electric cars, but I don't mean I'm totally for them, but whatever the market says, and if it's 10% of the market, 12%, 7%, 20%, whatever it is, it's okay. But you can't have 100% electric cars. And you know, so Elon endorsed me recently, the other day actually. He's great. Elon Musk. He's a brilliant guy. Every time I call him, he's talking about, I got a new idea for a rocket. You have to hear this? No, it's true. You know, the first time I ever saw this, I'm watching television like 3 years ago, and I see a rocket engine, motor engine, come down landing, straight up in no wings, no nothing, and it's landing. And I thought I was seeing things. What is that? And it's landing on a barge in the middle of the ocean. And then another one comes down, and another one, I guess 4 of them came down, 3 or 4, and they land upright. I said, what the hell was that? I've never seen that before. Now, if that were government, you wouldn't see that for another 50 to 100 years. But it was Elon. Now, think of that. And I called him, and I've always had a good relationship with him, but I called him, and I said, what was that? He said, well, we saved the engines. We saved the engines because it's very expensive to build. So, I mean, it didn't take me long to figure that if you save them, that's good. But who the hell thought you could do that? No wings, no nothing. Just like these big, long, massive tubes. And they're landing gently right on the dot. I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And you say, how long would it take government to come up with that one? I don't think they ever heard of it. Perhaps they still haven't heard of it. But, you know, he's a very advanced person, and he's doing other things that are great, and so are other. We have to make life good for our smart people, you know? We have some smart people. We have to make life good for our smart people. And he's as smart as you get. But Elon endorsed me the other day, and I didn't even know this, he didn't even tell me about it, but he gives me $45 million a month. A month. Not 45 million. Gives me 45 million a month. And I talked to him just a little while ago to say I was coming here, how you doing? And he didn't even mention it. He didn't mention. I mean, other guys, they give you $2 and you got to take them to lunch. You got to wine them, dine them. No, he's a great guy, he really is. But, you know, he's never mentioned to me, why are you hitting the electric cars? Because he understands I'm not hitting it. I think it's incredible. I've had them, I've driven them, they're incredible. But they're not for everybody. Some people have to drive long distances. And they tend to be more expensive. And, you know, they'll probably be made in China because China has all of that material. Oh, there's the guy that I stood up here. Are you the same guy, the same muscles? Look at that guy. Are you the same guy? Yes? No kidding. It's pretty good memory, right? Unlike somebody else that happened to be running again. You wouldn't, come on up here. Get up here. I gotta get this guy. This guy was Central Casting. Look at him. Look, oh, I think he was standing on a box. That was the only thing. I said, come on up here. Don't hurt yourself. Can you get him up? I like this guy. He's a serious union guy, a United Auto Workers. You look at him get over there. It's okay. He does not carry guns. He's not, come on up here. Look at him. Look at his shape he's in.
I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see this guy. I told you we're going to get 85 million of us out there to vote for him. So let's go home from this rally and do our part.
Look at the arms on him. I may have height, but his arms are definitely more powerful, huh? Look at that guy. No, last time I was here, I saw him and he was so great, and he was agreeing with us on auto. We want to bring car manufacturing back, and what the deal with this thing with the all-electric cars in 6 years from now? It's ridiculous. You know, in the Midwest, they open up chargers. They opened up 8 chargers. You read about this. $9 billion they spent for 8 chargers. That's like a gas pump. I guess it would be like the equivalent of a gas pump for electric, right? They spent $9 billion on 8 chargers. This is 8 little chargers. $9 billion. How do you do that? It would cost at that rate $5 trillion to create enough chargers so it could run. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work the trucks either. I was with Swift, big Swift company. How many trucks are you on? 29,000, sir. 29,000? That's a lot of trucks. One of the biggest, I guess like the biggest. I think he's the biggest, right? And he said, they want to destroy our business. They want us to go all electric. I said, so what's wrong with electric? I said, if you take a big, beautiful, like Peterbilt or one of the great manufacturers, how many times would you have to stop from New York to Los Angeles? None, sir. We go right there. We have some left over. You're like, that's with diesel. I said, what about if it's electric? We have 6 to 7 stops, about 3 hours each. So immediately he's saying, that's not working too well. He said, but there are other problems. He said, the truck is so much heavier that you'd have to rebuild every bridge in the country. That doesn't sound too good, right? And then the third thing, he said that the battery is so much bigger than a tank, a big tank for the diesel, or for the gasoline, but the diesel mostly. It's so much bigger that most of our payload would be holding batteries. In other words, we wouldn't have any room for the product. So let's say you hear those three minor details. Typically, you would end the conversation, would say that doesn't work. These people say, we don't care, we want you to go all electric. Can you believe these people? They're crazy. They're crazy. No, they're crazy. And they want boats to do the same thing. I was with in South Carolina, one of the biggest boat manufacturers of, smaller fishing boats from, let's say, 16 to 35 feet. And he said, we have a problem. They keep pushing, the beautiful outboard engines. You have Mercury and Evinrude, I guess they used to have. I don't know if they have it anymore. But those big, beautiful outboard engines they have, they work great. Or just interior engines run by a thing called gasoline. So he said they want us to figure out how to go all electric in a boat, right? All electric. I said, well, what is the problem? He said, we'd have to take the entire lower cabin where we have bedrooms, and we'd have to make that into a battery. But the bigger problem is, sir, it won't float because it's, it won't float. It won't float. And I always tell the story with well, what would you do? Because, my uncle was a great professor at MIT for 41 years, I think. He's the longest serving Dr. John Trump, she knows. He was great, very smart. We have a very smart family, actually. But he was a great guy, and I always thought I was very interested in this, but the press kills me all the time. They say, he keeps talking about sharks and this. I don't. I tell an analogy. If I'm in a boat, it's all electric, and it starts to sink. I asked the guy, do you get electrocuted sitting over this? And then I say, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this, do you? Because it's an analogy. I say, and if there's a shark about 10 yards away, right where they are, right where all the congressmen are, right over there, look at us. Well, they're sharks. They're sharks. If there's a shark about 10 yards away, do I get electrocuted or do I go with the shark? I said, because I will take electrocution all day long. Despite the environmentalists that say how wonderful sharks are. You ever hear these people? We had 3 killings by a shark this weekend, ripped people apart, and then you have the environmentalists going, well, they didn't mean to do it. They mistook them for a seal. They didn't want to hurt the child. No, I don't want that. Common sense, right? I mean, how about they catch a shark, vicious that they've been after, and they take him to a little deeper water and they put him back in? I wouldn't do that. Would anybody do that here? Let me ask you, this is Michigan. These guys wouldn't do it. But they always get on me. They say, why is he talking about electricity and sharks? What are they? Well, they know exactly. It's sort of a cute little story.
A lot of the magic happens.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Dick Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden. And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China, it's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they in fact pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have your and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years. And it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board, at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything across the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad border, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker, you're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
Intel's AI.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. We didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
I'm
never
gonna come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine.
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but were we ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happened?
Oh, man. The live gonna resume, man. Y'all just give me a second. The live will resume. Super chat is open. Super chat is open.
Yeah, and the sheriff did confirm that police did make arrests, and now the fourth suspect involved in the Julio shooting death. So I want to show you this new video that JSO released. It shows the overnight standoff at Collins Preserve Apartments between I-25 and Collins Road. Officers confirmed just a few minutes ago that they arrested Rashad Murphy. Again, the fourth person arrested in Julio's shooting death. They believe there's 5 people involved in this death. Now, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and U.S. Marshal Service tracked Murphy to that apartment complex, off Collins Road, where they arrested him. Now, we were there earlier. We do know that Murphy was wanted for murder in Tampa in regards to this death. They are still searching for that 5th person that they believe is involved. As of now, we know that all 4 suspects that have been arrested, police say, have been linked to gang affiliations in the area. Now, prior to this arrest, we do know that Rashad Murphy was facing, or is facing rather, first-degree murder charges, among other things. Police say it was Rashad Murphy and another man who fired shots at the rapper the night he was killed. Now, again, we just got this information. We're going to continue to follow this, but we do know, we did hear the sheriff say on the morning show that he hopes that that 5th person just turns themselves in. So once we continue to follow this case and find out more information, we, of course, will bring that to you on air and online. For now, I'm reporting live. Brianna Andrews, Channel 4, The
At 4:38, 3 shooters exited a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel. They murdered Jones with a handgun and 2 rifles. This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. Let's look at this video. This is at the hotel. And you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder. And they're shooting at Charles Dowd. You can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle. It's clear from that video. It's clear from that video what right front passenger in that vehicle. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle.
I mean, that'd be, no,
And
that
again, they're
was.
still shooting at. And he's the right front passenger in that vehicle. And he's the right front passenger in that vehicle. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do.
Three people have been arrested in the murder of a local rapper. Police are still searching for 2 more suspects. Charles Jones, also known as Julio, was murdered in Tampa last month while celebrating his birthday.
News for Jax reporter Janice Harris is joining us live in the studio with these new details. So Janice, how did these shooters know where Jones was located?
Well, according to Tampa Bay Police and the chief of police there, they followed his steps and probably followed him on social media as well as he was celebrating his birthday in that city. Tampa Police said 5 people in total plotted and planned to kill Charles Jones, following every step he made while celebrating his birthday and posting on social media. Tonight, 3 of those people are in the Duval County Jail. Rashad Murphy was arrested after an hours-long standoff overnight at an apartment complex in Ortega. Riley Phillips joins us live now from those apartments with more about what happened. Riley.
Yes, we drove through that apartment complex a few hours ago. We could already see crews out there cleaning up the damage from the SWAT standoff. There were some broken windows. JSO had to use tear gas to get Rashad Murphy to come out of the apartment and surrender. And Sheriff Waters says they wanted to do everything they could to make sure Rashad was taken into custody safely.
It just shocked me that he was here.
Danielle Collins could not believe what happened in her apartment complex overnight.
It was broken out around my car and everything, and people were standing out, and I was like, what's going on out here? And they was like, they had somebody held up in one of the apartments across the way.
She lives at the Collins Preserve Apartments, where Rashad Murphy was taken into custody. Rashad is one of 5 suspects connected to the murder of Jacksonville rapper Foolio in the
Around a third of 9.
Julio's last footage was quite disturbing. Throughout that day, he was seen on live Instagram in good spirits. He was seen with so many random people, but one more detail is quite obvious than the others. Julio was freely giving out his location on the internet like he was some random person. Julio is a man with enemies, but does not seem to care about the consequences of putting himself out there. One thing rappers who have given out their locations online have into the party, Julio
Metro presents a tale of two wireless customers.
I've been a loyal customer since today, which means I get all.
Hi there. I'd love to show you what a K-12 powered school is really like. Step inside.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show?